Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star 2 Origin Continent based on novel. So let's start. Luo Feng piloted the Void Netherworld pupil ship, not daring to relax in the slightest, and put all his effort into controlling the ship. In Yulon City, there were many flying boat-class secret treasures, but Luo Feng chose the Void Netherworld pupil ship, because the secret patterns of this ship were profoundly mysterious and similar to the path of the Eye of Life and Death. The materials for refining this ship were sourced from several types of low-level primordial life from the Void lineage, making the ship incomparably integrated with the Void. With the netherworld eyes of the ship, one can more clearly perceive the structure of the heavens and the Void. Luo Feng piloted the flying boat, agilely navigating through the Void, where ordinary methods could no longer trace its presence. The creator of this flying boat had reached half primordial level in both life and destruction paths, a realm much higher than the current Luo Feng. Even with all his effort, Luo Feng could only utilize 50 to 60% of this flying boat's capabilities. Sigh. As Luo Feng scouted the surroundings, he spared no effort in hurrying along. We have completely flown out of the elder hunting area. Luo Feng still did not dare to slacken, worried that the primordial wild hoof leader was still tracking him. So he flew for a long time, until he was thoroughly out of the conventional hunting area, before he relaxed. Void Netherworld pupil ship, suppress all fluctuations of aura. Even more powerful than my own techniques for concealing life aura. Luo Feng revealed a smile. The primordial wild hoof leader is too powerful, I simply can't fight against it. If it saw through my fake death secret method, this avatar would have completely died there, losing the undying heart and the palm world. Luo Feng thought inwardly. Losing these two treasures would be a too huge loss. Luo Feng was too overconfident. After perfecting the undying blood sea body, even among elders it was considered a formidable secret technique, and with two secret treasures, Luo Feng felt that he had chances of escaping life from a typical divine emperor perfection, low-level primordial life, which is why he dared to try entering the elder hunting area, only to encounter the primordial wild hoof leader. Primordial wild hoof leader is not the strongest among low-level primordial life. Luo Feng thought, in Nine Rivers Sacred Realm, there are even more powerful low-level primordial life known as super limit level. Facing a super limit level, I fear not even having a chance to resist and would be wiped out instantly. Sources for super limit level low-level primordial life materials usually come from the Dark Sacred Realm. After all, in the Dark Sacred Realm, super limit levels are common. All sorts of strange, powerful, and even special rare species of low-level primordial life are placed there. They confront the strongest cultivators selected from countless worlds. Nine Rivers Sacred Realm. Divine Emperor Perfection level low-level primordial life is very rare, let alone super limit level, that is myth. I thought I was careful enough, but I still underestimated the danger, Luo Feng thought. This time, returning to Yulon City, I must make good use of these spoils of war to comprehensively enhance my strength. Luo Feng then thought and also released Emperor Qing. After coming out, Emperor Qing, seeing Luo Feng, finally relaxed and then laughed. Brother Luo Feng, I was really worried just now, afraid that you were killed by that primordial wild hoof leader. Facing the primordial wild hoof leader, there's simply no way to fight. Luo Feng also shook his head. I can only try every possible method to escape. I barely managed to escape with my life by relying on a life-saving secret technique. But I also suffered great losses. His own body's energy reserve was left with a little more than 20%. All other energy reserves were depleted during the combat and escape processes. Being able to escape is already something to be proud of. Emperor Qing said, according to the intelligence, facing the divine emperor perfection level primordial wild hoof leader, only 3 Hall Masters have the strength to confront it head-on. All other elders must flee upon encountering it, and most of them can't even escape. Luo Feng nodded. Search *the novel_fire.et website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. With the undying heart enhancing the undying blood sea body, and his energy being robust enough, yet only a few exchanges left him with a little over 20% of his energy reserve. You're right, being able to escape is already quite good, Luo Feng said with a smile. Where have we flown to now? Emperor Qing looked towards the vast landscape outside. We've already flown out of the normal hunting area. It won't be too long before we'll arrive at Yulon City, Luo Feng said. Emperor Qing's expression changed slightly. Brother Luo Feng, when we left Yulon City before, we were followed. At that time, it was you who dealt with the tracker. Now returning to Yulon City, the deceit workshop might have ambushes. Luo Feng nodded. Elder Tian, wanting to use him to make a statement, had sent trackers who were killed by himself. Tian most likely has even stronger killing intent now. The closer we get to Yulon City, the more likely we are to encounter an ambush. Luo Feng nodded. If Elder Tian wants to make a statement using me, he can only act outside the city. Inside the city, actions are generally stealth attacks with secret techniques, leaving no traces. Direct combat. Only outside the city. Unless one is prepared to sever ties with the entire Elder Hall. The Elder Hall, 3 Hall Masters and over 300 elders, who also control the entire city's formation. All of them together, even a super limit level low-level primordial life would lose its life. The rules of the city are the foundation for the 3 Hall Masters and the elders to continuously gain immense benefits. Of course, they wouldn't destroy the rules. Brother Luo Feng, how do you plan to handle this? Emperor Qing looked at Luo Feng. Just fight them openly. Luo Feng grinned. He wants to use me to make a statement. I might as well use him as a stepping stone. Earning resources does not only come from hunting. When one's strength is strong enough, like those elders, their frequency of hunting is very low. The primary way they earn resources is from various benefits obtained normally within the city. Once my strength is sufficient, the vast resources of Yulon City, even if I can't eat meat, I can still drink some soup. At the beginning of one's growth, naturally one needs to find ways to obtain various resources. My current strength is somewhat inferior to my peak state, Luo Feng slightly frowned. His undying blood sea body, as the energy reserve increases, so does the strength, but it's not unlimited. 500 times the perfect divine body energy reserve is the peak state. Even with many energy reserves, the only increase is in reserves. There is no enhancement in burst power. 100-fold perfect divine body energy reserve can exert about 50% of strength. 200-fold perfect divine body can exert nearly 80% of strength. 300-fold perfect divine body can exert about 90% of strength. The higher it goes, the smaller the increment in enhancement. 500-fold can exert 100% of strength. At this moment, I can exert 80% of my strength, Luo Feng thought. That should be enough to face Elder Tian. If not, I can still summon more avatars from Yulon City to come here. He was cultivating in the land of origin, and every time he came to the 9 Rivers Sacred Realm, he brought sufficient energy reserves. Over time, the velocity at which Luo Feng's various avatars absorbed energy increased, becoming somewhat comparable to that of the small universe. Not far outside the east city gate of Yulon City, a huge deceitful shadow formation had already been set up, patiently waiting for Luo Feng to walk into the trap. Luo Feng and Emperor Qing went out hunting. They should be returning soon, thought the 3 avatars of the Mist Teeth God Emperor, dispersed and utilizing the formation diagram to deploy the deceitful shadow formation, covering a sufficiently vast surrounding area. Elder Tian he originally dispatched 4 raiding teams to set up deceitful shadow formations to guard the 4 city gates. The Mist-Teeth God Emperor slightly shook his head. Who would have thought? They, hearing about one of my avatars being crushed, found out. There might be an elder behind Luo Feng. None of them wanted to block the city gates anymore. The raiding team members were mostly not Source World powerhouses, each having only one true body. They joined the Deceit Workshop for resources, not to die. Knowing this matter involved a conflict between 2 elders. None of the 4 raiding teams wanted to take the risk. Elder Tian he couldn't force them. Even if the 3 hall masters personally ordered it, the cultivators in the city likely wouldn't pay attention to such a suicidal task. In the end, Elder Tian he could only ask 4 Source World powerhouses in the Deceit Workshop to deploy the formation using avatars. The Mist-Teeth God Emperor was one of them. Source World powerhouses, just deploying formations with avatars. As long as the conditions were right, they were still willing to do it. Sigh. The deceitful shadow formation was so vast, and being relatively close to the city gate, it had completely sealed off the vast area outside the East City Gate. To enter the East City Gate, one must enter this deceitful shadow formation. If it were other cultivators, the deceitful shadow formation would not obstruct them. The deceitful shadow formation was only maintained for these few days, and in such a short period, given the hunting frequency of the teams in Yulon City, since the Mist-Teeth God Emperor deployed the formation, he hadn't encountered a single hunting team. The Mist-Teeth God Emperor suddenly looked towards the distance. A ship had already entered the range of the deceitful shadow formation. The formation enveloped it, and immediately sensed 2 familiar life auras. Mist-Teeth, it's you again. Luo Feng flew out of the void netherworld pupil ship. Mist-Teeth looked at Luo Feng from a distance. Luo Feng, quickly let the elder protecting you reveal himself. The elder protecting me? Luo Feng was surprised. He immediately understood. The Deceit Workshop side didn't believe Luo Feng, Emperor Qing, could reach the elder level so quickly. They thought he had requested support from a powerful elder. Luo Feng laughed. There isn't any elder protecting me, it was me who crushed you with 1 claw. Mist-Teeth was taken aback. I won't kill you either, quickly send word to Tian he, let him come here, Luo Feng said. If he doesn't come, I might just enter the city. Mist-Teeth in this formation wanted to stop him. Luo Feng instantly determined. Mist-Teeth, this Source World powerhouse, probably prepared to die this time, not carrying any valuable treasures. Luo Feng naturally didn't want to waste energy dealing with Mist-Teeth. You're asking Elder Tian he to come over? Mist-Teeth looked at Luo Feng and nodded. Okay, Elder Tian he will be here soon. Near the East City Gate, in a cave mansion. Elder Tian he resided here. To him, if that elder wanted to save face, he would definitely return through the East City Gate. Elder Tian he originally sat there, leisurely carving, when suddenly he received a message from Mist-Teeth. Luo Feng is that elder. And he asked me to come over. Elder Tian he felt both amused and disappointed. I thought it was some other elder. Turns out it's just a newly promoted elder. Newly promoted elder, just stepping into this level, weak accumulation, the battle spirit Elder Tian he had been longing for quickly faded. He crushed Mist-Teeth with 1 claw. Seems he has a powerful secret treasure. Truly overestimating oneself. Just became an elder, obtained a powerful secret treasure. He thinks he can challenge me. Elder Tian he stood up. Well then, I'll use 50% of my strength and finish him off. In 1 step, Elder Tian he had already left the cave mansion, and in another step, his figure blurred, and he had already arrived at the city gate, viewing from a distance the silhouette of a black-haired man in the deceitful shadow formation outside the city gate. The black-haired man also looked over from afar. A newly promoted elder. Elder Tian he slightly shook his head. Luo Feng and Elder Tian he looked at each other from a distance. Mist Teeth God Emperor immediately returned quietly to the city, and Emperor Qing also took the Void Netherworld pupil ship back to the city. Elder Tian he didn't intercept them, his target after all was Luo Feng. Elder Tian he. Luo Feng looked at the other party. Elder Tian he was clad in a white robe, his appearance handsome, skin like crystal jade, and even a faint halo of light protected him, with an aura that was unremarkable and ordinary. I thought there was some elder who wanted to have a match with me. Elder Tian he said softly with a chuckle, only now do I realize, it's merely a junior, who has just made a breakthrough. Is this the confidence behind your disrespect? Why should I show you respect? Luo Feng looked surprised. Are you one of the 3 hall masters, or are you the master of the Deceit Workshop? At this moment, around the east city gate of Yulon City, there were guards, some members of the Deceit Workshop, and some cultivators who came to observe. Even the number of cultivators watching was increasing rapidly. An elder-level confrontation. It's happening outside the east city gate, they are going to clash. Many cultivators received the news, and they were quite excited to come and watch the battle. An elder-level confrontation in Yulon City was quite rare, and the opportunity to watch closely was even more precious. One side is Elder Tian He, one of the 8 deputy workshop masters of the Deceit Workshop. To be a deputy workshop master of the Deceit Workshop must be extraordinary. The other party is God Emperor Luo Feng, not so well known. His claim to fame is just slaying a Deceit Workshop's marauding team. It looks like his newly promoted elder-level strength. Elder Tian he has profound accumulations, the other Luo Feng's accumulations are shallow in comparison. The watching cultivators communicated their thoughts to one another through whispers. They were all within the territory of Yulon City, protected by layers upon layers of the city's defensive formations, not at all concerned about being affected by the battle, and thus could watch comfortably. Outside the East City Gate, at this moment there were only Luo Feng and Elder Tian He. No other cultivator dared to step out of the East City Gate even by a single step. A new elder with such confidence. Elder Tianhe was not angry at all. I guess. Is it because you've obtained a powerful secret treasure? Hence the full confidence. Luo Feng looked at the other party. You are too young, and your experience is too little. Search asterisk the novelia, .ne asterisk t website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Elder Tian he shook his head gently. If you had ventured through the dark sacred realm, you would realize, your little bit of chance isn't worth mentioning in the dark sacred realm. The dark sacred realm, where the strongest cultivators from countless worlds gather, is filled with dazzling talents, and there are quite a few who are qualified to receive treasures from the infinite space treasure vault worth more than 100,000 reward points. The dark sacred realm indeed gathers numerous strong cultivators. However, Elder Tian He, what are you in the dark sacred realm? Luo Feng looked at him. I spent a long time in the dark sacred realm, and I've made some progress, Elder Tian He said with a smile while looking at Luo Feng. Although I'm nothing special in the dark sacred realm, I can still teach you a lesson. Show me what you've got, Luo Feng said while looking at the other party. Elder Tian he casually extended a finger, and from the tip, a point of light shone. This point rapidly expanded, engulfing billions of kilometers in an instant and forming a huge formation diagram. Within the scope of the formation diagram, illusory gray birds began to generate. Before making a move, Luo Feng had already collected information about his opponent, knowing that Elder Tian he had deep accumulations, and was skilled in various methods. Formation diagram was one of Elder Tian his specialties. Elder Tian he had profound expertise in crafting formation diagrams and Daoist soldiers. Luo Feng stood there, and with a single thought, an endless blood sea surged beneath him. Simultaneously, the Xianqing sky annihilation map inside his body began to operate, naturally forming a formation with the endless blood sea. Along with piercing screeches, numerous illusory grey birds dashed across the void towards Luo Feng, plunging into the endless blood sea. Whoosh! Each illusory grey bird was like a sharp sword, piercing through parts of the blood wave, then ultimately perishing engulfed and eroded by the blood wave. Your physical body method is quite interesting. It's comparable to a low-level primordial life at the late-stage Divine Emperor. Elder Tian, he said with a laugh, yet the wholeness of the formation diagram was consolidating into a huge and terrifying grey bird. This massive grey bird posed a frightening menace, and Luo Feng also faintly felt threatened. Yo! A shrill cry that pierced the heavens followed, and the massive grey bird sped towards Luo Feng's physical body with astonishing speed. Xianqing sky, a line between heaven and earth. The formation condensed into a light of life and death, immediately confronting the bird, forcibly piercing through the creature's body, making the bird become unreal and twisted. Is this all you've got? Luo Feng stood there. Elder Tian he, where's your Daoist soldier? What about your close combat techniques? Show me all your moves. A pure energy condensed Daoist soldier is indeed weaker. Elder Tian he looked at the scene. Today, I carry with me a few hundred crafted Daoist soldiers, give them a try. With a wave of his hand, a number of wooden bird carvings flew out. These bird carvings quickly enlarged after being released, each one's might not inferior to the massive grey bird from before. Hundreds of Daoist soldiers. Luo Feng looked on seriously, sensing the power of these bird carvings. These Daoist soldiers seemed somewhat clumsy, but their strength was quite formidable, akin to late-stage Divine Emperor bloodline cultivators. However, when added together by the hundreds, the outcome was terrifying. Boom, boom, boom. Under the command of the formation, the natural formation of the Daoist soldiers' battle array posed a severe threat to Luo Feng. Stronger than expected, Luo Feng thought to himself. When hundreds of massive flying creatures surged out simultaneously, it was as though a large group of low-level primordial life had launched an assault. Instinctively, Luo Feng activated the Undying Heart at the very first moment. With the Undying Heart as the core, innumerable vessels spread, rapidly extending throughout the entire endless blood sea. Luo Feng had a premonition that without relying on the Undying Heart, his undying blood sea body would suffer significant injuries under the attack of hundreds of Daoist soldiers. His own energy reserve was only a little more than 200 perfect divine body reserves. He couldn't afford to deplete it so carelessly. Booming. Hundreds of massive flying creatures, coordinating with formation, merged their might into one, striking fear into the hearts of all cultivators observing from Yulon City. But suddenly, a massive blood wave, billions of kilometers tall, rose up, blocking these gigantic flying creatures like mountains. The flock of flying creatures didn't hesitate and smashed into it, shattering numerous blood waves in an instant. Yet, the might of these flying creatures was rapidly diminishing. The undying blood sea body, empowered by the undying heart, only increases its might by a few times. But the defense is increased by dozens of times. Even a full-force stomp from the primordial wild hoof leader only depleted 2% of my energy reserve. These Daoist soldier assaults can't harm me at all. In front of the primordial wild hoof leader, Luo Feng dared not claim to be undying. But at his own level, Luo Feng's undying was indeed fitting. Booming. The two sides clashed. Under the leadership of the formation, hundreds of Daoist soldiers either struck like raging thunder, condensed like a sword, or gathered like an axe chopping down. The might of the Daoist soldiers was indeed terrifying. How is this possible? Elder Tian he frowned. I released these Daoist soldiers, and yet they couldn't force him to use that gigantic claw. He remembered clearly that it was a giant, fuzzy claw that pinched Mist Teeth to death. In front of my Daoist soldier formation, he still has strength to spare. Elder Tian, he couldn't believe it. The Daoist soldier formation was his usual method. He usually couldn't be bothered to fight personally, just casually releasing some Daoist soldiers to confront the enemy. Crack. Under the empowerment of the undying heart, the might of the Xianqing Sky Annihilation formation also greatly increased, and the endless blood sea mercilessly grinded away, finally breaking apart some of the wooden carved flying creatures. These flying creatures were each meticulously carved by Elder Tian He, integrated with formation diagrams, and forged into Daoist soldiers. More and more cultivators were observing from Yulon City, with members of various powers watching the battle. Elder Tian, his hundreds of Daoist soldiers, striking together with a formation, are actually at a disadvantage. This Luo Feng, a newly advanced elder-level existence, is so powerful. Everyone was somewhat surprised. Elder Tian, he will probably have to resort to his true methods now. It looks like he's going to give it his all. The observers were all eagerly anticipating. Elder Tian, he stood there, with a casual wave of his hand, and the hundreds of Daoist soldiers in the distance all flew back to him, which he then easily stowed away. No wonder you're so confident, Elder Tian, he said with a smile. You've easily blocked my Daoist soldier formation. I underestimated you. Luo Feng looked at his opponent. He was very clear that in order not to allow the undying blood sea body to suffer too much depletion, he already used the undying heart in front of the Daoist soldier formation. The fundamental great Tao I've cultivated over the long years is the formation diagram path, and I've refined Daoist soldiers with the formation diagrams, said Elder Tian He with sentiment. These Daoist soldiers have been my support, as I grew from weak to strong over the endless years. But as an enlightened one, I've cultivated to the late-stage divine emperor, but reached a bottleneck that I couldn't overcome no matter what. I realized that as I groped in the dark, I must have taken the wrong path. Elder Tian, he gazed at Luo Feng. In the dark sacred realm, I've learned the heritage of other cultivators, over 100 kinds of heritages, absorbing their essence and integrating them into myself. Even though I've learned many techniques, I've never been able to reach perfection. Elder Tian, he chuckled. Strictly speaking, the primordial bloodline route that I cultivated later did reach perfection. That path was the simplest. As soon as these words fell, Elder Tian, he no longer restrained himself, releasing a terrifying aura that swept across all directions. Silver secret patterns even began to emerge on the surface of his skin. Primordial bloodline at the half-primordial level. Luo Feng looked at his opponent. Luo Feng understood that once one cultivates the bloodline path in addition to other techniques, the bloodline would contaminate one's own will. The mysteries of the bloodline could even become integrated with one's own enlightenment insights, which constituted a form of contamination of the Tao. Thus, for those of the enlightened one lineage, once the primordial life bloodline integrated into their bodies, the hope of making progress in their path of enlightenment would become slim. From then on, they would usually focus mainly on the bloodline path. As a member of the enlightened, during my time in the dark sacred realm, I exchanged my battle merit for a high-level primordial life bloodline, Elder Tian, he said to Luo Feng. With this, I integrated it into my physical body, forming the foundation of my bloodline cultivation. I explored its potential and nurtured the eternal night netherworld kite body, and for this bloodline body, I even created a set of the eternal night battle technique. Elder Tian, he stood there, with a silvery grey aura sweeping through the heavens and earth, his presence terrifying, and with an invisible will impacting those around him. This video will end here.